The slap sounded like a gunshot in church, sharp, cold, and final. A cop's hand hit the tomb guard's face right there, under a slate-gray December sky. The cop's hand turned red on that hard jaw. Tourists gasped and phones flew up. A child's scream broke the silence. A parent said to the audience, "What the?" He was basically a statue in blue, some vet dressed up like a plane while a badge taught him. Snickers rippled, ugly, fast. But that cop didn't know Jack. I didn't know that this tomb guard had dodged Taliban bullets and sang in shrapnel, which still hurt his shoulder like a phantom. And as the echo faded, the ground shook, boots sank from the tombs, and the old guard closed in like fate. The colonel, who had pinned his silver star, was already speeding down Memorial Drive with his squad in tow, ready to change one cheap shot into a reckoning. Stay right here, because you'll want to hear this. So before we dive back in this amazing story, make sure you are subscribed and have the bell icon switched on. Tell us in the comments from where you're watching this. Enjoy the story. If you think that principles like honor, courage, and sacrifice are still important, help us preserve their memory alive. It was one of those December mornings in DC that really gets to you. The chilly air seems like it has teeth and isn't scared to use them. A thin layer of regret covered the marble headstones like frost. The American flags along the rows of graves snapped in the wind, each flap a subtle reminder of what this place actually means. Arlington National Cemetery, the ultimate resting place for soldiers who gave everything so that people like you and me could wake up free every day. The sky was a deep gray that made you think it would snow but only made you feel cold. The amphitheater, where the tomb of the unknown soldier is, felt much more serious with all of that going on. You could hear your own breath billowing out in little white clouds, and every time you stepped on the gravel walks it seemed like it was reverberating off the walls of history. Sergeant Jack Harlon, 35, from a little town outside Cleveland, Ohio, where the winters are just as mean, stood vigil over the unknown troops from World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and all the other wars we don't talk about as much. But you learn to be harsh early on. Jack had big shoulders from carrying stuff through the sand and legs like oak trees from marching all the time. He looked like the kind of guy who wins arm wrestling contests at the county fair without breaking a sweat. He was wearing the full tomb guard uniform, a sharp navy blue coat with gold buttons that shone like they had been cleaned by hand that morning, white gloves that were so clean you could see your reflection in them, black slacks that were pressed to a razor edge, and the famous blue kepi cap that was slanted just right. The M14 rifle was slung across his chest with the bayonet fixed and at the right angle, and those heavy glasses masked eyes that had seen too much. But they couldn't cover the way he held his jaw or how he stood like a statue made of stone. He didn't move or twitch. He was completely still. If you looked closely, which most tourists didn't do since they were taking selfies from behind the chains, you would see the small indicators of a man who had earned his place here. Jack had been to Afghanistan 3 times as a Marine, when Helmand Province was a meat grinder and every patrol seemed like rolling the dice with the Taliban. An IED overturned his Humvee like a toy and sent shrapnel into his left shoulder. Docs stated it was too deep to dig out without hurting the arm, so it stayed there. It was a continual reminder that throbbed like crazy in this weather. "Hang on, man. Medevac's coming," he whispered to his friend, Private First Class Tommy Ruiz, as the boy bled out from a sniper fire. Even as the rotors receded into the night sky, Tommy didn't make it. Jack did, but parts of him stayed behind in the dust, and in the dreams that woke him up at 3 a.m., returned home. He didn't talk about it a lot, as in TED presentations or viral posts. To the others who were there early that morning, he was just a guard, part of the show. But Jack, he stood for Tommy, for the unknowns, and for every American who had ever donned the uniform and come home in a box or not at all. The visitors were already queued up behind the observation platform, wrapped up in parkas and scarves, with steam coming out of their styrofoam coffee cups. A Texas family huddled close, and the dad pointed out the eternal flame to his kids, who were wide-eyed. "That's for the ones we can't name, son, but we still think of him." A group of seniors from Florida talked quietly along the rail, their voices getting lower as if they knew better than to break the serenity. And then there was Emily, 16, full of California energy. She was already shooting everything with her phone, which was extremely Gen Z. She murmured to her mom, "This place gives me chills, Mom, like good chills." Her mom agreed and squeezed her shoulder. "Yes, kiddo. This is where America says thank you." Officer Derek Kane, 38, from the Metropolitan Police Department in Arlington, was around 50 yards away, pacing the perimeter like a caged bear. The guys at the precinct labeled him Rookie Kane behind his back because he acted like every shift was his first rodeo gone awry. Derek was the kind of cop who thought the badge gave him the right to bark instead than serve. He looked like he had spent more time at the donut shop than the gym. His stomach hurt because the yellow HUS jacket was zipped up to his chin. His face was crimson, not just because it was cold but also because he was getting more and more angry about everything that had happened that morning. Every few minutes, the radio on his shoulder crackled with dispatch check-ins. And he had already lost his temper when he yelled at a delivery truck driver who had gotten lost and entered the restricted area. "Buddy, do you think this is a parking lot? Move it or I'll tow it." The driver's bad English didn't help, and now Derek was getting angry, his boots thudding heavily on the walkway as he looked for his next outlet. He saw Jack up there, standing still in the middle with a gun that shone in the feeble sun. That precise silence got to Derek, as if the guard was criticizing him without saying anything. It could have been the tourists who were oohing and ahhing over the changing of the guard procedure, making it seem like a spectacle in Las Vegas instead of the genuine thing. Or maybe it was how the other officers stayed away from the tomb sentinels, as if they were untouchable. Derek didn't want to be untouchable. He wanted to be in charge. He grunted and turned on his radio. "Dispatch, this is Kane. There's a possible obstruction at the tomb platform. Do I need permission to reroute a vehicle?" The response was short. "Copy, Kane. Proceed with caution. Crowds are building. Caution." Derek snorted to himself. "Yeah, right." He tightened his belt, straightened his shoulders, and marched toward the chains. As Derek got closer, the wind rose up and brought with it the faint smell of pine from wreaths on adjacent graves. People in the crowd whispered as they felt the change in the air. Hank Riley, who was 70 years old and still going strong, leaned on his cane, a Wervet from the beaches of Normandy, and pulled his faded VFW cap down low. He pushed Gladys, his wife. "That cop's got a burr in his saddle. Look at how he's stomping around like he owns the place." Gladys told him to be quiet. "Shut up, Hank. Now is not the time for comments." Hank's eyes, as sharp as ever, stayed on the scene. "Okay, this doesn't feel right," Emily said as she zoomed in with her phone. "Why is he going right up to the guard?" Without thinking twice, Derek ducked under the chain barrier, scuffing the holy marble with his boots. Forget about the rules. This was his beat, and the delivery truck had to go. He stopped only a few inches from Jack, near enough to smell the leather of the gloves and the subtle polish on the boots. "Hey, soldier boy," Derek said, waving his badge around like it was a ticket to heaven. "Officer Kane, Arlington PD. I need you to move 2 feet to your left. A truck is coming through, and you're blocking the lane." Jack didn't move, didn't blink when they were behind those shades. His eyes kept fixed on the exact location in the middle distance, where the black marble mausoleum mirrored the gray sky like a mirror to forever. "Take a breath. Let go of your breath. Steady like a metronome." That was the plan. 21 steps and a turn. Take a break for 21 seconds. Say it again. No distractions. No thanks. Derek's jaw tightened, and the air between them was foggy with his breath. "Are you deaf or just pretending to be a statue?" I said. "Move." Still nothing. The people behind the rail got quiet, and a wave of confusion spread. The Texas dad brought his son closer. "Easy there, officer. He's on duty and shouldn't react." Derek turned around quickly, his eyes sharpening. "And who the hell are you? This is police business. If you don't want to get a ticket for interfering, stay out of it." The boy, who was about 8, pulled on his dad's sleeve. "Dad, why is the cop yelling at the soldier? The soldier is just standing there." Dad didn't have a good answer. His frown got deeper under his cowboy hat. Derek went back to Jack and leaned in closer. His voice dropped to a growl that still carried. "Hey buddy, I get it. Dress up nicely and pose for the cameras. But this isn't a photo op. It's a public road. Move out of the way or I'll make you." Jack's gloved hand was firmly on the gunsling. If anything, his posture was getting straighter and more rigid. You could see the veins in Derek's neck bursting, and the scarlet flush creeping up his cheeks. Not getting any attention from some jerk in fine clothes was worse than the truck mess. A lot worse. "What's wrong with you? You think you're better than real cops? We deal with the drunks, the dealers, and the dirt while you play soldier." Emily's hands shook a little as she held the camera, but she kept filming. Her pulse raced. "Mom, this is bad. Really bad." Her mom agreed and took out her phone. Hank said under his breath, "Boys are going to learn what respect is." Derek pointed his finger at Jack's chest, stopping just shy of touching it. The air was thick with tension. "I bet you couldn't handle a real shift. No glory, just work. What, cat got your tongue? Or are you too busy saying hello to ghosts? The Texas family shifted uncomfortably, and the dad whispered to his wife, "This guy's crazy." A couple of biker veterans in leather cuts, rolling thunder riders who had come up from Richmond, looked at each other, their Harleys parked out front like silent guards. Derek's anger boiled up and his hand started to twitch at his side. The wind howled a little louder, and the flags whipped around as if the cemetery itself was holding its breath. "You know what? I don't think you can even hear me. You're too busy with your little ceremony to be human." He stepped in one more inch, close enough for Jack to feel the heat of his rage. Derek's open palm hit Jack's right cheek with a swing that even he didn't see coming. The slap bounced off the walls of the amphitheater like a gunshot in the quiet. It was harsh, final, and clear. The crowd gasped in waves. Someone yelled, "Oh my God!" A child started to cry, and the sound cut through the frigid air. Emily's voice broke up on her recording. He just hit him for no reason. Jack's head snapped back a little from the hit, and the sting spread across his skin like fire. But he didn't move, didn't back down. His eyeglasses kept level, and his gun stayed still. His boots were stuck to the ground as if they had grown into the marble. The red handprint on his cheek stood out against the pale December skin, yet he was breathing evenly and calmly. He saw in his mind dust that had settled, Tommy's blood on his hands, and the sound of incoming fire. This was nothing. A hurricane with a mosquito bite. He moved back into place, looking straight ahead, as if the world hadn't suddenly turned on its axis. Derek stood there, his chest rising and falling, and his palms still tingling. For a single second, astonishment flashed in his eyes, as if he meant to push instead of hit. But Jack's silence just made things worse. "Don't see anything. It's just a mannequin in a uniform." He tried to laugh, but it sounded empty and weak. The people in the crowd weren't laughing. The gas morphed into whispers that were low and fierce, like a storm gathering. Hank's cane hit the ground hard. "That kid is a shame to the badge." The Texas dad stepped forward and spoke in a calm voice. "Officer, you just attacked a U.S. soldier on holy ground. That's not right." Derek turned on him, and spit flew. "Mind your own business, cowboy, or I'll put you in cuffs for being rude." The dad, nevertheless, didn't give up, and his wife held on to the kids. "All of us are witnesses." Emily's phone was shaking, and tears were making the lens blurry, but she held it steady. "Everyone say something. This isn't right." Whispers grew into voices, and Florida retirees yelled, "Shame on you." The motorcycle vet stood up straighter and flexed his hands. In that frozen scene, 10 seconds went by. Derek smirked like he had won, and Jack stayed still as the tomb itself. The wind slowed down, and the only sound was the soft creaking of flags in the hearts of everyone watching. And then it began, not shouting or turmoil, but a deep, synchronized thud, 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 like thunder pouring in from the graves, boot heels hitting stone, exact as a drumline, arriving from all sides at once. The throng turned heads, and the confusion changed into awe. 6 Army MPs in sharp green uniforms came out of the East Colonnade in perfect formation, with their sidearms holstered but their eyes focused on each other like lasers. Their footfall echoed as they walked 30 inches at a time, guns slung but ready. A group of Navy SEALs, off-duty but never off, appeared from the shadows of the trees along the West Road. Their black military gear stood out against the white wreaths. Captain Elena Vasquez led a group of Old Guard troops, the 3rd Infantry Regiment boys who do tomb duty, right through the middle of the visitor center. 42-year-old Latina firebrand from the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, who was tall and acted like she was destined to lead. Her attire was perfect, her beret was straight, and her boots were shiny. There was a lieutenant who had just graduated from West Point and looked like a poster boy, and a sergeant who had been deployed more times than he had stripes. Derek Kane went from king of the hill to cornered rodent in about 10 seconds. The MPs made a tight semicircle about him, including Jack, who wasn't crowding him but was blocking his escape like a noose. The SEALs took the sides, moving silently and staring with eyes that could curdle milk. Vasquez's detail was behind Jack, making a wall of blue and gold. The horses in the Quezon platoon nickered quietly in the distance, as if the whole cemetery had come to life. Derek's smile vanished, and his eyes moved around like a caged animal. "What's the holdup? This is a mistake. I'm a police officer." Vasquez stepped closer, and her voice slashed through the air like a cabar, a calm southern drawl with steel in it. "Officer Kane, I'm Captain Elena Vasquez of the U.S. Army Military Police. You just attacked a member of the U.S. Armed Forces on federal property. Step back and put your hands where I can see them." Derek's radio crackled, but dispatch didn't notice. He didn't care, though, because he was sweating even though it was chilly. "Assault. I barely tapped him. He was in the way. My truck needed to get through." Vasquez didn't blink. Her eyes were like a bug's. Obstructing what, exactly? The tomb of the unknown soldier isn't a detour sign. Sergeant Harlon is on duty for life. You hit him. That's assault on a soldier, plain and simple. And in Arlington, that's a federal crime. The crowd went wild, but not in a fear. They were all together. Hank Riley's voice was loud, and he held his cane like a sword. "I saw it all, Captain. That guard didn't move. A muscle-bound cop just walked up and slapped him like he owned the place." Emily pushed her phone out in front of her. Video still rolling. "I've got it all on tape, every word, every second." He said he was a mannequin. The Texas dad spoke up, his accent as thick as barbecue sauce. "Us too, ma'am. We're a family of 4. That's not how you treat a vet." The biker veterans agreed, and one growled, "We ride for guys like him. You need statements? Line them up." Even the retirees from Florida joined in, taking out their phones without being asked. Derek's face lost all its color, and his bravado fell apart. "Come on, people. That's not how it is. I was just following the rules." Vasquez called her squad on the radio with a calm voice. "Secure the area. Hold the officer for questioning. Let the JAG and Arlington PD brass know. This goes beyond their jurisdictions." A big lad from Philly who was an MP moved in without a hitch and cuffed Derek's wrist with a click that resonated. "Sir, you're in military detention for your own safety and ours." Derek turned and whined. "This is crazy. I'm one of you. I'm a cop." Vasquez leaned in close, and her Texas accent got lower. "One of us, son. Real enforcement protects the protectors. You just learned that the hard way." Jack stood through it all, the red mark fading but remaining a sign of the occasion. He thought for a moment about Tommy's laugh in the chow line, and how the sand adhered to everything and sang. The smack hurt less than the recollection of hugging a sibling as he died. "Take a deep breath. Let go of your breath. First duty." The throng watched in silence, as if the whole country was holding its breath with him. As the MPs took Derek away, his protests turned into mumbles about lawyers and complaints. The weight of the situation settled over the amphitheater like new snow. Vasquez looked at Jack, and her details stood up straight behind her. She stopped 2 steps away and saluted sharply with her right hand to the top of her beret. The lieutenant and sergeant did the same thing, and the air hummed with reverence. "Sergeant Harlon," she murmured, her voice clear and compassionate, "but just for him. Status report." Jack moved just a little bit for the first time that morning, enough to look her in the eye over the sunglasses. His voice was low and solid, like the foundations of Ohio. It had a Midwestern tone that stated he would rather be fishing than fighting. "No injuries, ma'am." The contact was with an open palm to the right side of the face. He stayed in position and bearing the whole time, and was fit for duty. Vasquez kept his gaze on him for a beat longer. Something was going on between them. Maybe pride, or the common rhetoric of folks who would look down on a hot-headed cop. "Understood, Sergeant. Stand fast but at ease." She stopped saluting and looked at the handprint, which was now faded but still there after this shift ritual. "We'll take care of the rest." Jack nodded once, very little, and then went back to watching. The gears turned inside, though. That slap. It wasn't about hurting. It was about the why, the things he didn't know, the brothers who would never be able to stand any place again. Tommy's face lit up again, and he smiled through the dust. "Don't let the clowns get to you, Jacko. You can do this." He took a deep breath, and let it out slowly, resetting. "It wasn't about the hits you took. It was about the ones you took without stopping." The audience changed from tourists to stakeholders, and moved closer to the rail. Hank Riley moved forward slowly, holding his wubby wood cap tightly in his withered hands. "Captain, please tell that boy we have his back." Vasquez smiled a little, which was the first sign of weakness in her armor. "Yes, sir. He knows, but I'll pass it on." Emily wiped her eyes and pushed upload on her phone, before the signal dropped out in the stone walls. An officer slapped a tomb guard. He didn't even move. Arlington strong, shocker, stand tall. It was shaky cam and raw, but the truth sliced through Jack's quiet and Derek's anger. Notifications started coming in within minutes. Views were going up, and shares were coming in from Texas veterans groups to Ohio truckers. Derek, on the other hand, was put into an unmarked SUV with MPs on either side of him. His radio eventually turned on. Dispatch finally got the message. "Kane, what's going on?" The brass is coming. He sank down in the back seat, the cuffs rubbing against him. The conflict went away like air from a flat tire. It was nothing, just a tap. The MP driver looked in the mirror with a blank face. Nothing, buddy, you just poked the bear at the zoo. Assault while on duty in Arlington. You could get kicked out of the army and face charges. Don't play, Jag. Derek looked out the window at the rows of white stones that were passing by, and he felt bad about what he had done. He had always thought that the badge made him invincible. It turns out that it only made him responsible. The changing of the guard went off without a hitch on the platform. Another sentinel took over for Jack, with a 21-count rifle salute, and the exact twirl that amazed the crowd again. But this time it felt different, charged. The Texas family stayed for a while, with the dad kneeling down to his son. Look at that, Jake. That's what heroes do. They take the hits so we don't have to. The child nodded, his eyes wide. Even Dad didn't get mad. Nope, that's why he's stronger. The biker vets started a low chant of USA, USA, that got louder and louder, with their fists pumping slowly. The Florida group even joined in, their voices cracking with age but full of anger. Vasquez was in charge from the sidelines. Her radio was full of action. Yes, we have witness statements. We have dozens of them. Get the security camera footage as well. She saw Emily in the crowd and waved her over. Young lady, that video, if you want, it will be Exhibit A. Emily smiled through her tears as she gave over her contact. Anything for him. That wasn't fair to him. A black-crowned Vic with no lights and discreet Pentagon plates pulled up as Derek's SUV sped toward the post HQ. A man in a suit from the Secretary of Defense's office stepped out with a clipboard and said to Vasquez, "This will be national news. Good job keeping it quiet." She nodded. "Just doing my job, sir," said the guard. At noon, Jack's shift came to an end. The sun finally broke through the clouds and turned the marble gold. He marched off the mat with the usual accuracy, gun on his shoulder, but the crowd didn't move. They stayed put. Hank held out his VFW pin as he walked along the rail. "Here you go, son." An eagle wing spread. From one old dog to another. Jack nodded and took it with his gloved hand. "Thanks, sir." Hank's eyes were elsewhere. "Marines, huh? I thought so. Normandy, 448 Airborne. We made it possible for you guys." They shook hands, which was short but strong. Emily hurried up next, looking awkward but serious. "Sergeant, I'm sorry you had to go through that. My video has already gotten 50,000 views. People are angry for you." Jack's sunglasses disguised the fire in his eyes, but his voice becomes softer. "Don't be sorry, miss. Just be glad you saw it, okay? Keep standing up. That's what matters." She turned red and stepped aside as the Texas dad came closer with a hat in hand. "Roy here from Austin. The kids wanted to say thank you. You made their trip one they will never forget." The boy said, "You're like a superhero, mister, but you're quiet." Jack laughed quietly. "The first sign of weakness all day. Being quiet is your superpower, kid. Keep that in mind." Jack got to the medbay after a brief look in the post clinic. The doctor hardly raised an eyebrow at the disappearing mark. "Sergeant, if it itches, ice it. You're fine. You're as tough as nails." Jack waved it off and put on jeans, a hoodie, and the VFW pin on his collar. But Vasquez intercepted him in the hall before he could get away. "Harlon, Brass wants to talk to you. It's not a big deal, just your opinion." He shrugged his shoulders. "Ma'am, my opinion is that Kane did his duty. He learned fast." She patted his shoulder, being cautious not to touch the scar from the shrapnel. "And the country is learning from you. That video is going viral. Hashtags are trending." By lunchtime, Emily's video had gotten 50,000 views. Veterinarians posting it in Facebook groups. Moms posting in neighborhood discussions. There are even some pundits making fun of segments on cable. There were a lot of comments. "This is America. Respect the uniform or get out of the way." "See your fee to that silent stand," said a Gold Star mom. "My son didn't come home. But guardians like this keep his memory alive. God bless." People found out Derek's name. Arlington PD hasn't said anything yet, but there are rumors of a suspension, a JAG investigation, and maybe even a civilian lawsuit from the Army. The Pentagon's lawsuit. He was on the phone with the White House, saying it was a chance to teach people about respecting veterans. That night, Jack went home to his Alexandria apartment with the radio turned down to an oldies station. Springsteen was singing about Born to Run. The pin shone on the dash, and Tommy's dog tags were in the glove box. He stopped at an overlook, where PTO acts sparkled below, and let the day's weight relax. The slap gone. The help that stuck. Vasquez sent an SMS that buzzed, "Debrief tomorrow. POTUS tweet coming. I'm proud of you." Jack grinned a little and typed back, "Just standing, ma'am, for the unknowns." When night descended over Arlington, the lights in the cemetery came on, making long shadows on the tombs. By dawn, there were flowers at the base of the tomb. The Texas family sent red, white, and blue bouquets, a child's sketch of a soldier with a cloak and the words "Quiet Hero" written on it, notes scribbled by hand. "Thanks for not breaking. That was necessary." The motorcycle veterans left behind a challenge coin with the words "Brothers Forever" on it. Tourists came back, not just for the ceremony, but also for the story. Whispers of the guard who got hurt and turned it into a lesson. 1 million people had watched the video weeks later. Emily's number of followers grew so much that she became an influencer. She gave the Tomb Guard Fund money from ads and smiled in interviews. "I thought it would be cool footage, but it was real." Derek was put on hold while his badge collected dust and lawyers circled. People said he moved out west, which was a demotion in everything but name. But Jack, he went back to work, at the same post and in the same way. The guard changed forever, just like the watch. That's what places like Arlington are like in the end. They don't merely keep the dead, they also instruct the living. On that December morning, with the frost and the flags, America got a reminder. The swing doesn't show real strength, it's in the stand, the calm choice to stay the course when every instinct says to swing back. That day, Jack Harlon did more than guard a grave. He protected something more important, our better selves. So the next time life tosses you a cheap shot, ask yourself, do I swing or do I stand? Because bold people don't always shout in the land of the free, they just put up with it sometimes. And if it doesn't hit you right in the chest, I don't know what will. Please leave a comment below to tell us where you're watching from and what you think about standing tall. If Jack's tale made you feel good, hit like. Sign up to get more stories about everyday heroes. There are a lot of them in America, and we're only getting started. Keep standing strong until we meet again.